Okay, welcome. This is a video on how do you go from some base artwork, like maybe this picture, to a complete NFT site with maybe 10, 15,000 unique variations of the artwork. So this is a little story about how my daughter was fostering cats for Austin Pets Alive, and she would draw the cats that she was fostering, and she made a little sticker site. And her sticker site really didn't ever become that popular. It's stickypaws.art. But this one particular image of a cat seemed to sell on t-shirts a lot. So we went ahead and picked this image of a cat, and we kind of deconstructed it, and I'll show you what I mean. And then the second part of this video, I've got Arthur here. He's on my dev team. And hey, Arthur. And he's going to take you through how do you generate the code that makes a lot of this artwork. And he's going to take you through an open source project called hashlips. And we're going to talk about a little bit of the complexities of getting the art right and how that manifested in altering the code base. So we're going to talk about art and then code. So let's get into it. So real quick, you start with an image like this, and what you're going to have to do is basically deconstruct it maybe into like just sort of an image with none of the doodads on it. And then from here, we made like 6 different modifications to the tail. And the reason you start to do something like make a different tail on the same body and keep the same body is that's how a lot of NFTs are. They keep the face the same, and then they have a little variation as the base. So our base model has different tails. And what that does is if we have 7 bodies, and then you go back and you look and we have like 10 different boots, and then you start doing the math, so that's 70 variations, and then 10 different hats, you're up to 700 variations. But by the time we do all of these, the vests, the neck accessories, the different colors of things, we have well over 70 million variations of this artwork. And so what you get is artwork that looks kind of like this. Like you start putting together different layers of things, like the boots with the spurs and different hats. And that's basically what a generative 10K or 15K NFT drop is. It means 10,000 unique images are turned into NFT artwork, or 15,000 in the case of cowboy kitties. And so ultimately you go from sticker to a site like this that's going to drop in 10 days. And I want to tell you how we did it, the intricacies of the art and the code. So basically, once I started getting some of the art together and all these plates of neck accessories and different hats and boots, Arthur put it through a quick generative test and generated 500 with all the layers in the correct order. And so I would have to send him things like this sticky note, like, hey, we have a rule. Like, if a gun exists, you can't have saddlebags because that art's looking really bad. So you need to limit it to one of the 2 saddles that look good with the gun. Or here's the order of the layers. I need to change it. Or, you get pistols 60% of the time and rifles 40% of the time. So we did a lot of Discord, back and forth talking about the artwork. And so that leads us to the next part. So you've got the base artwork like this, right, that you started with. You stripped it down into the various layers that I showed you, right? You'd have to strip it down into like some base images. You have enough variation of all the doodads you're going to put on it, and now you got to put it into code. So let's switch over to Arthur's screen right here. And he's going to show you a little bit about the stock out of the box open source hashlips project. Hashlips is an open source project made to generate NFTs. And he's going to show you a little bit about some of the stuff he customized and what that logic might look like. So Arthur, let's start with, if you can zoom in, if you could zoom in on the stock hashlips layer concept, and go with that at first.
All right, so when you want to start a hashlips project, as some of y'all might already know, You will, first of all, the code base is completely live on GitHub, and you are welcome to clone that into your own file and utilize the exact same version of this code. And what that will do for you is that will set up your layers, as Travis discussed earlier, and uh, a source file. And in that source folder, you'll find two files. One is a config.js and one is a main.js. Now, generally speaking, what I have been editing in here is part of this config.js file. First, I'm going to give you a basic rundown on how this works in the standard hashlips code. I'll explain why we needed to upgrade that and give it some more versatility and how we changed that. So going from the top up here, we did not change most of this. This is imports for configuration. Um, you probably won't need to change this either. Um, this is all metadata for the Solidity contract. Um, you may potentially need to change that. But as for this tutorial, we're not currently planning on editing any of the information here. Um, Down later, you see layer configurations. Now, this is the main function that we're going to be editing to better fit cowboy kitties. And the basic principle of layer configurations is you have an array of objects, and the object has a grow addition size to, which is how many are created. So in this basic case, there are 10. The layers order, and it pulls the layers name from all of these files, which if you notice contain different images with different weights on them. Give this a minute to, oh Lord. There it goes. So we have a couple different irises here. Obviously, they're just black circles. Um, but what this config.js does is it pulls from those, given the delimiter at the end, which is the hashtag that specifies um, how likely one of those images is to be pulled, and it just puts that in the image. And if you wanted to say grow the edition size to 200, you could obviously change that. But what most people want is they want to have a set, and they want to have a number of these be have a different rarity than the other ones. Um, and you can do that with the delimiters in there. The other thing that we found you can go in here and do is you can say you want 10 additions with all the properties, and you want the other 100 to have all the same properties, but you want them to be more plain, so you don't want the background. And this will generate 190 images that have all of these properties with blank backgrounds, and 10 images with all these properties with backgrounds. Now, that's all good and well for simple projects where you just need to mint a number of layers in a very strict hierarchical way. But sometimes you need special rules to configure the art layers together. And the reason why is because sometimes two layers will potentially not look good together, or potentially you will want one layer to go on top of another layer. And two examples of that, the first would be a layer that doesn't look good on top of another layer. If you have, say, two pieces of headwear, you might preferably want a hat, but not a hoodie. And so you would need conditional logic for that. And that's the same thing for something like a holster on one of our cowboy kitties, that you would only want a gun in the holster if the holster exists. So our solution for that is if you come over here to the code where I've edited this, um, we have the basic setup of cowboy kitties, and obviously we're doing much, much more generations because we're dropping 15,000 and not 10. Um, but we have the probability of existence of each layer and the name that refers to each layer. We have some custom variables for weights for that function the same as delimiters, but for entire files. Um, so in the example here, if the holster exists, there's a 0.75 75% chance that the holster has a weapon. And so if that has a weapon is called and 3/4 of the time, then we will generate a weapon in there. And how we do that is we start by instantiating the layer configurations as null, and then dynamically add in layers depending on each generation. So if you see here, we have a giant for loop, and we iterate, and we call this once every generation. And we grow the size of the layer configurations by one every time we call this. And when you go through this function, given this giant set of for loops, that contains special conditions inside here, depending on what layers look good together. So for example, if we go down to the bottom here, on one of the good examples here, if we had a saddle, first we'll check that the saddle exists, and we'll do that dynamically also. We'll give a random value. We'll compare that to the probability of existence. First, we want to check if a gun exists, because if a gun exists, we can only use the saddles without bags. Saddles without bags are stored over here. But if a gun does exist, then we just want the normal saddle layer. So the name J obviously is going to be saddle because it's defined up here in this if statement. We can do that for all the different conditions and generate a complete object that contains sets of arrays with all the different properties for each individual NFT. And then over here in this main.js file, we pull all of that information and generate all of the images from that variable that was dynamically created. And that will generate a build file up here. There's currently not one here because I haven't run this yet, but over here we can see an example of a build file because this has already been initiated. The images, you can see these are all pictures of eyeballs. Give it a second for that to load. And we have the JSON, which provides attributes. So there's the metadata file, and there's the regular JSON file for each of the individual assets. And the other issue that we solved by modifying this is a lot of the times with the delimiters wanted to edit some of the text in here. So that unfortunately cannot be done directly through the config file. If you go into the main file and loads, should be a, let's see, file name that was pushed to each of the JSONs and will later be attached to the image once you host that in IPFS or some other immutable image hosting site.
Yeah. So let's just talk about that, and it's okay if we don't find that particular code. So let's go back to the config that you did. I like the config you did, and so let's go over this. So the last thing Arthur was talking about is, let's say I had a boot. I had 10 different drawings of boots, and then I also did 10 different colors of each of those boots. Well, if you were to upload that to OpenSea, it would look like everybody that had a particular color of boot was like super unique, versus I just wanted to kind of roll up the stats of like, well, you have boot number 1, and it doesn't matter whether it's pink or purple, but this cat's wearing boot number 1, and that's not very rare. It's very common, no matter what color you get it in. And then if you have boot number 11 or 10 or 11, that's a very rare boot, and in any color it comes in, it's super rare. So we just needed to manipulate the JSON to really kind of represent how people think about it, and I just think it's more effective when you look at the stats. Otherwise, everything was going to look kind of super rare, more rare than it was, and that's kind of not what I wanted to advertise. I wanted to advertise the sense of, oh yeah, that's the cat with a sombrero. Okay, that's a certain rarity, and the cat with a regular cowboy hat, that's a different rarity. So that's what Arthur's talking about there. And then if you go back up to the exist probability up there real quick, Arthur. So what I found working with some of my first people that I hired on Upwork is like they wanted me to put my images in very specific names. I had so many images, and they wanted me to name them a specific way to make it work with hashlips the normal way. But it's not how I felt about the art project. It's like, it's easier for me to think of like, okay, there's a 100% chance it'll have a body, 100% chance it has boots, but a 25% chance it has spurs. So Arthur was able to just make this simple little table, and I'm able to describe to him, yeah, these are the percentage of things existing, and I don't have to name my art files easier. So I find there's little tricks we have here to just make it easier. When you really get into this and you start getting with all these art files and modifying the colors of them, it's actually a lot of work. And it's easier to change this code here than to change all your art files. So that's one thing I want you to think about in lines 27 and 28. The other thing is, look at lines 39 and 40. I had to describe the fact that some cats have guns and some don't. And some don't even have gun holders. And so like, what's the chances of having a pistol versus a rifle? It's more common to have a pistol. So, and just all these types of things that make sense from a logical standpoint in the artwork, Arthur was able to put into this dynamically generated code that he just described. So that is kind of it in a nutshell. This is some of the examples that we modified in the hashlips code, and it really improved our artwork output on the other end. So if you want to come join us or talk to us more, just go to cowboykitties.io. That's KITTIES. So cowboykitties.io, and go to just hit the Discord. Come on in the Discord. You can mention me. I'll show you my username. So you can come on in here. I'm MTG X-Ray in the Discord. Hashtag 8283. I think that's my username. Let's see, is that what I am? Yeah. So this is me, MTGXray, hashtag 8283. And we'll try to answer any of your questions that you have. But come on over to the Cowboy Kitties Discord. And there's still 10 days left. You could actually earn some prizes if you socialize this a little bit. And just to finish this off, and thank you, Arthur, that was really great. This project does donate to no-kill animal shelters. And it's built into the smart contract that there's a charity wallet, and we'll definitely give those out to the no-kill animal shelters. So it's fun to own an NFT. This NFT project started from, one of my younger daughters just doing some artwork because she really loves foster cats. And so that's what this project's all about. It's got a purpose, and just a little bit on the roadmap. It's going to be fun. The roadmap is... of course, we get 10% sales. We need to do some airdrops. We're going to have a Decentraland party. And at the halfway mark, my daughter's going to do 10 physical prints and sign them. And during these gala invites, you'll get to meet her virtually. And then when we sell out, we're going to have literally an in-person annual festival. And it's going to be somewhere in Texas. I don't want to promise the town because I got to work with the cities and get all the permitting. and see how many people are coming. But this is going to be a really fun way to get together, and we can cosplay if you want. You can dress up. We're going to have, you know, as a cowboy kitty or whatever. We're going to have some great music. We know how to do these festivals. You know, we're here in Austin. I can't promise it'll be in Austin, but there's a lot of cool cities right near Austin. Who knows? Maybe it will be in Austin. But when we get to the 100% mark, it's time to do a festival, and that's going to be fun. So anyway, thanks for taking a look at the project. I wanted to help you with some of the code. Like I said, come to us in the Discord, at mention me, and I will hook you up with our dev team. Arthur runs the dev team, and we'll try to get all your questions answered. Thanks so much, and see you soon.
Have a great day. Bye.
All right, let's see. Shut the stream down.